Hello, and welcome to our guide to the April 8, 2024 total solar eclipse. I am Marc Nussbaum, your host. This video is based on my recently released book now available on Amazon, Total Solar Eclipse 2024, The Complete Guide. In this video, I'll discuss why you really want to go see the next eclipse coming up this April. We will also cover what causes the eclipse, where to go see it, and what to bring to fully experience and view it safely. It is rare for a total solar eclipse to occur over a large sweeping section of the United States. The last time this happened was 7 years ago in 2017. And if you miss this next one coming up this April, you'll have to wait 21 years for the next United States eclipse in 2045. So what is special about a total solar eclipse and why bother to go see it? First, this is an eclipse of the sun, not the more frequently experienced lunar eclipse, which is an eclipse of the moon. A lunar eclipse is always viewed at night, and while the moon can turn a pretty orange color, it is not very exciting. However, a total solar eclipse is viewed during the day, and if you experience it from under the shadow path, it is a spectacular, awe-inspiring event. In 1998, I witnessed my first total solar eclipse. I was totally unprepared for the wave of joyful emotions I experienced that afternoon. I was hooked. If you have never seen a total solar eclipse, it is hard to describe why it is such a moving experience. For millions of years, humans have evolved seeing the light of the sun continuously during the daytime. But when the sun disappears in the middle of the day, there's a primal reaction from deep in our bones. Something's not right. Just imagine. It starts with a kiss as the sun and the moon first meet. Then the sun slides to the west behind the moon. It looks like the moon is taking bites out of the sun. Our ancient ancestors thought a dragon or other monster was devouring the sun. This is the partial phase of the eclipse. It looks a bit like the old computer figure called Pac-Man. You notice it is still daylight, but a wall of darkness is approaching at over 1,000 miles per hour. Now you are surrounded by a purple-pink 360-degree sunset. Within seconds, you're engulfed in darkness and the temperature drops 15 degrees. It's nighttime all around you. Birds stop singing and the stars come out. Next, you spot what appear to be tiny white pearl beads dancing along the edge of the moon as the sun's light passes through the valleys of the lunar mountains. These are called Bailey's beads. Then a huge white ring forms around the entire moon, and a single bright point of light appears. It looks like a fully formed diamond engagement ring has been tossed up into the sky. Then you notice jets of pink-colored fountains shooting out from the sun. These are loops of hot plasma called solar prominences. This is a close-up image of a solar prominence on the surface, also called the photosphere of the sun. Prominences occur when hot electrically charged gases form large loops between two opposite polarity sunspots. The next event makes the people around you gasp and shout out loud. For the first time, you see the sun's atmosphere, or corona. It looks like the petals of a gigantic cosmic flower reaching out far into the blackness of space. The shape and extent of the corona is different for each eclipse. It varies with the level of sunspots. Sunspot activity moves between high levels and low levels, returning to a high level again after approximately 11 years. During the 2017 eclipse, the sunspot cycle was near its low. But in 2024, it is predicted to be nearing its peak. This could make for an especially spectacular view of the corona during totality. So, what causes a total solar eclipse? It's simple. The moon is constantly projecting its own shadow out into space, and every so often when that shadow hits Earth, we get a solar eclipse. This all works out because although the sun is 400 times larger than the moon, the distance from the Earth to the sun is about 390 times further than the distance from the Earth to the moon. Due to optical perspective, this means our relatively tiny moon can appear the same size or even slightly larger than the sun. When the moon is close enough in its orbit with Earth, it can completely block out the sun. The moon's shadow is shaped like an ice cream sugar cone, and if the moon is close enough, the tip of the shadow can hit the Earth, and we get a total solar eclipse. Now, for this to happen, the sun, moon, and Earth must all lie in a straight line, and they must also lie in the same plane. The requirement that they are all in a plane is like they are all sitting on the same tabletop. If they are not in the same plane, the moon's shadow would miss the Earth and just shoot off into space. So, when everything lines up properly, we get a total solar eclipse like the one coming up on April 8, 2024. Here is a map of the shadow path of the April 8, 2024 eclipse. The eclipse starts in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Mexico. It sweeps through Texas, the middle and northeastern United States, and out into the Atlantic Ocean east of Canada. In order to experience the full majesty of a total solar eclipse, you must be somewhere under the white curved band shown on the map. This is where the inner, darkest part of the moon's shadow will fall. This is the path of the umbra, also called the umbral shadow. Observers outside this white band will experience only a partial eclipse. The curved numbered lines outside the umbra's band of totality indicate the approximate amount of the sun that will appear blocked when viewing from those areas. The further away from the umbral shadow, the less of the sun will appear covered on eclipse day. Since the umbral shadow is about 100 miles wide and you probably don't live directly under the path, you will likely need to travel at least some distance to fully experience the eclipse. So, the question arises, where along the eclipse path should you go? Observers generally want to be located where totality is the longest. As you can see on the map, totality for the April 8, 2024 eclipse will vary from a maximum of 4 minutes and 28 seconds in central Mexico to about 3 minutes and 46 seconds in upstate New York, and less time as you move northeastward towards the Canadian provinces. Keep in mind, the entire eclipse will take over 2 hours, however the phase during and around totality is the most spectacular. We are fortunate that the 2024 eclipse is nearly 4 minutes throughout the US. This duration is almost twice as long as the 2017 total solar eclipse, which had a maximum duration of only 2 minutes and 40 seconds. You will notice on this map that the white band around the umbra's center line represents about 50 miles on either side of the shadow's center. As mentioned earlier, as long as you are somewhere under this band, you will see totality, but the duration of totality is shortened as you watch from locations further away from the exact center line. The good news is that duration falls off rather slowly close to the shadow's center. This means you don't need to worry about being exactly on the center line. In fact, as long as you remain within 20 miles on either side of the shadow's center, you'll experience about 90% of the duration that a person directly on the center line would experience. While duration is one factor to consider when choosing a location to observe the eclipse, it is much more important to choose a spot with the best prospect for clear skies. But before we cover the weather outlook along the path, we will discuss eclipse timing and answer the question, how do you find the precise start time of the eclipse for your selected location along the umbral path? You can think of the overall eclipse as occurring in 3 acts. To understand the diagram, try to imagine the orange sun sliding towards the left of the screen, behind the black moon. Act 1. The eclipse begins at first contact. It will take an hour or more to complete this partial eclipse phase. Act 1 ends at second contact. Act 2. At second contact, totality begins. We see the diamond ring, the corona, and the other phenomena previously described. Totality ends at third contact. The time between second and third is referred to as duration or duration of totality. Act 3. Now the sun starts to re-emerge from behind the moon. This is also a partial eclipse phase and will last an hour or more. When the sun is fully visible again, we have reached fourth contact and the end of the eclipse. Notice that while the term contact is used by astronomers in this context, of course, the sun isn't actually touching the moon. It only appears this way as the two objects pass in front and behind each other. Next, let's take a look at how to pinpoint your viewing site and discover the exact time the eclipse will occur at your particular chosen location. My latest book release, now on Amazon, Total Solar Eclipse 2024. The complete guide includes tables you can reference to find the April 2024 eclipse timing at key towns along the eclipse path. There are also several smartphone apps you can download to do this, but for this video I'm going to concentrate on a handy online tool that can be accessed from any web browser. To start, let's open a browser and search for National Solar Observatory 2024 Eclipse Map. Click to select it. Alternatively, you can go direct to the website using the web address shown on the screen. Here you will find a map showing the eclipse center line. Zoom in and click somewhere near the shadow's path, and up pops what we call a local circumstances table. This is exactly what we're looking for. Here you have all the essential eclipse timings. First contact is denoted as start, and the rest of the timings follow. Max eclipse represents the midpoint of totality. Also shown towards the bottom center of the table is the duration of totality at that precise point on the map. Notice that this particular table is stated in the local time of the chosen location. There is no need to convert time zones, but do take note of the time zone stated near the upper left corner of the table. By the way, if you don't see any times for start and end of totality, that means you are too far from the center line and won't be able to see totality at that location. Simply click around to explore other potential viewing sites. Let's try to answer the question, what is the best location to view the eclipse? The map shown here is a quick reminder of the shadow's path over the United States. This is the same map we looked at earlier. Because the 2024 eclipse is in April, the prospect of good weather is arguably the most important consideration. After all, if it turns out to be socked in with clouds at your location, you could miss the event entirely. Ideally, you would choose a location with the lowest probability of cloud cover. The discussion that follows is based on the work of Jay Anderson. Further information can be found on his excellent website, eclipseophile.com. Since this eclipse will occur in April, spring storms are possible in the northeast. Keep in mind that this satellite image is only a snapshot of a point in time. It was taken on April 8, 2021. Notice the clear skies over Texas and Arkansas. Also notice the open skies over New York State and Vermont. On this same date and several other years, the New York area was clouded out. So, you never know what is going to happen on Eclipse Day in 2024. Although we can't predict the weather several months from now, we can make use of historical satellite and ground station data to consider the average cloud cover over a long period. Before we look at the weather charts, let's understand what we mean by cloud cover. When the satellite passes overhead at about 1:30 in the afternoon local time, we take an image. If about half of the sky is obscured by clouds, we have 50% cloud cover. This map represents the average cloud cover over a 20-year period. This data was captured on every April 8th at 1:30 in the afternoon. The cooler colors of blue and green indicate less than 50% cloud cover. Notice the blue color over the ocean west of Mexico, throughout the center of Mexico and over some parts of Texas. This indicates a historic cloud cover of less than 30%. These areas hold the best prospects on Eclipse Day. This next chart shows this same data for towns near the Eclipse Path. A position lower on the chart means there is less likelihood of clouds on Eclipse Day. Notice that the towns on these charts may only be near the Eclipse Path, and not necessarily under the umbra. It is important to verify duration for the specific location you plan to observe from. Let's walk through the details. As we have already noticed, the area just off the coast of Mazatlan, Mexico is an ideal location to view the eclipse from a cruise ship or private charter. Both Princess and Norwegian Cruise Lines are offering eclipse cruises in 2024. In the middle of Mexico, around the town of Torreon, you will find excellent weather prospects. Near this town, we will experience a full 4 minutes and 28 seconds of totality. This is the point of maximum duration for the 2024 eclipse. There are also excellent prospects just over the border as we enter Texas. The towns of Uvalde, Kerrville, Fredericksburg, Temple, Waco, and several other small communities lie directly on, or just a few miles from, the eclipse center line. The city of Dallas is also within the shadow path. The towns of San Antonio and Austin are not under the umbra, however they could be used as a base of operations and place to stay overnight. By the way, I understand that Baylor University in Waco is planning on an open-to-the-public eclipse observing party on their football field. This fee-based event will be in partnership with Flagstaff's Lowell Observatory. Lowell sponsored the observing party I attended in Madras, Oregon in 2017. The cloud cover outlook starts to increase slightly as we approach the Waco and Dallas area, and remains pretty much flat, in the mid-50% range throughout Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri. Carbondale, Illinois holds a unique claim in that the last United States eclipse also crossed this same area in 2017. That year, Carbondale happened to be the location to experience maximum totality. Several folks I know have plans to go back to Carbondale in 2024. Presumably, they will be among a small number of individuals who can claim to have experienced 2 total solar eclipses in the same location on Earth. The next chart shows cloud cover near the shadow path for the rest of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Notice the 3 colored lines indicating different history towards the edges of the eclipse shadow compared to the center line. Based on this, you might choose to avoid Lima, Ohio and go for Dayton instead. Dayton is a bit further away from the center line but has a slightly better weather prospect based on this chart. Pennsylvania and upstate New York are next. The path goes through the Great Lakes region and into Vermont. Cloud cover is averaging about 65% in this area. This last chart covers Vermont and the Canadian Maritime provinces, with cloud cover of between 70 and 80%. The eclipse leaves land as it enters the North Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Prince Edward Island. As a final reminder, when using these charts, don't forget to look up the local circumstance table for any site you are considering. After reviewing all this data, your choice of location comes down to the question of how far you are willing to travel on Eclipse Day to increase the odds of having clear skies. While the best weather is likely to be in Mexico and Texas, the forecast a week before the eclipse could indicate very good chances of clear skies anywhere along the path on Eclipse Day. If you plan to watch from a short driving distance of your home, don't give up if your area is not in one of the sunny states. I've been to eclipses when the predicted outlook called for a 60% chance of cloudiness, and I still ended up with a great view of the eclipse. You just never know what's going to happen. You should check the weather forecast regularly as Eclipse Day approaches. By the way, if you wake up on the day of the eclipse to find your planned observation spot is forecasted to be covered with a solid deck of clouds, don't hesitate. Hit the road and find a better location. I'll close out this discussion on how to choose your eclipse viewing site with this last, but often overlooked suggestion. Consider that many other people are likely to arrive at your chosen site at different times on the day of the eclipse, or even the day before. However, they are all going to attempt to depart the area at the same time as soon as the eclipse has ended. In 2017, there were thousands of people stuck in traffic jams for hours. Even Waze couldn't help, so consider your exit strategy. Is there more than a single road in or out? Or perhaps you can spend the night while everyone else deals with the traffic. The single most important item to bring to the solar eclipse is a pair of solar filter safety glasses. You should have one of these for everyone in your group, kids included. You can buy these on the internet for less than $5 each. Just search for solar eclipse glasses. The cardboard frame types are fine, and they can fit over most prescription glasses. Make sure these are ISO certified for eclipse or solar use. The reputable ones will state that they are ISO certified or ISO tested. Pick up a few extras just in case. Here's how to use them. Whenever you look at the sun, even during the partial eclipse phases, always use your solar safety filters. However, remember to remove your filters once totality starts and the sun is completely blocked. When there are no slivers of the sun visible, it is safe to look at the eclipse directly or through binoculars. In fact, if you keep the filters on during totality, you won't see anything at all. With the filters on, you will miss out on the majesty of the corona reaching into space. Then just as totality ends and the first bit of sunlight appears, resume using your eclipse filters. Don't forget to supervise children to make sure they're using their eye protection properly. Also, before use, inspect your filters to make sure they're not scratched or otherwise damaged. Remember, even if you stay home, you still need to use solar filter glasses to watch the partial phases of the eclipse. One final note, do not try to use household items like standard sunglasses to block the sun. They are not dark enough. Now, what else should you bring on your trip to the eclipse? Well, for comfort, don't forget to pack a chair, a hat, sunscreen, and a light jacket. It will get chilly when the sun goes away and thermals cause the wind to come up. I also suggest you bring a household item with lots of tiny holes like a colander or perhaps a straw hat. During the partial phase, the sun will become a point source of light. Letting this light shine through the colander will project tiny images of the sun's crescent onto objects on the ground. The kids love this. Of course, also bring your mobile phone so you can check on weather and traffic. Plus, you'll have a handy camera with you. Have your mobile phone or camera ready to capture people's reactions just when totality ends. You will see some of the biggest smiles of a lifetime. One other very important item to bring on an eclipse trip is a pair of basic binoculars, along with a set of removable solar filters to go with them. These will really enhance your enjoyment of the event. You can find appropriate solar filters through a quick online search. The filters must mount over the lenses that point towards the sun. You use the filters whenever viewing the full sun and throughout the partial phases of the eclipse, just like the on-the-nose ISO filters discussed earlier. I highly suggest that each person in your group have their own pair of binoculars and filters. Everyone will want to use one. During the brief few minutes of totality, you don't want to waste time adjusting for each viewer's eyesight. A decent pair of binoculars can be purchased for $100 or less. I suggest a pair of 7x50s or 8x42s. For more information, my book includes a section discussing the ins and outs of binoculars, filters, cameras, and lenses. On Monday, April 8, 2024, the sun and moon will conspire to reveal a small truth about our universe. On that day, we are invited to take a brief peek behind the curtain and witness an emotionally charged event culminating in seeing the atmosphere of the sun with our own eyes. Viewing a total solar eclipse is both a rare opportunity and a unique experience that should be on everyone's bucket list. And because this one is coming to our national backyard, all you have to do is travel a short distance to be a part of the excitement. Don't miss this performance. For more information about planning a trip to the 2024 eclipse, please consider my latest book, Total Solar Eclipse 2024, The Complete Guide by Marc Nussbaum. This is my third eclipse book, and it is completely updated for 2024. The book includes sections covering photography, binoculars, eclipse traditions and history, maps, explanations of eclipse mechanics, and more. It's available now on Amazon. Click on the link here to check it out. Thank you so much for listening, and may the umbra smile down upon your travels.